Welcome back to the Kyle Olson Show. Joining me now is the leading Republican candidate in the 11th Congressional District, Eric Esshaki. The 11th includes portions of northwestern Wayne and southern Oakland counties, so the communities of Troy, Livonia, Canton, Novi, Milford, and Waterford, among others. So, Eric, how is your race shaping up?
Well, Kyle, first of all, thank you for having me on the show. It's great to be with you. The race is shaping up great. There's a lot of enthusiasm on the ground. And I will just say this, our Congress is broken. We're facing civil unrest across our country. 31% of our young people under the age of 35 actually believe that socialism is an acceptable alternative to capitalism. And the ideas coming from the left are, quite frankly, bankrupt and silly. They're calling to defund the police. They want to investigate and impeach President Trump for nothing. And I think the people of Michigan, and specifically the 11th district, are quite frankly, they're tired of it. They want to see change, and they want to see someone focus on policy and conservative policies that will continue to improve our economy, increase small business growth. That's a very important part of the district here.
So what would your core focus be?
So we need to focus on the economy first and foremost. I mean, we look at the policies of President Trump on the economy. They've made sense, and quite frankly, they've worked. We've had some setbacks with COVID, but that's all artificial. So we need to continue to focus on smart tax policy. And more importantly, or perhaps equally as important, is rolling back or continuing to roll back all of this needless regulation that's coming from an unaccountable bureaucracy that sits in Washington and has nothing else better to do than come up with this stuff to make themselves relevant.
So your campaign put out a flyer calling one of your opponents, Carmelita Greco, a fake Republican and anti-Trump. Why do you say that?
Well, the reality of it is she's been gone from Michigan for 20 years. She was out in LA hanging out with her liberal friends. She came back to Michigan about a year ago after campaigning for Democrats who actually support Rashida Tlaib. She dresses up like an American flag after hiring an anti-Trump consultant and claims to be the conservative candidate. And I think that this is an important election. And the voters of the 11th Congressional District deserve to know who the best candidate is, who the strongest candidate is to advocate for conservative principles and help President Trump win the state.
So the 11th Congressional District is one of those, there's a list called the Dirty 30. I don't know why they call it that, but that's what they call it. And it's districts that that Democrats hold that President Trump, Donald Trump, won in 2016. And so the 11th district has sort of gone back and forth in terms of political parties. The incumbent is Haley Stevens. Why do you think she is wrong for the district?
Well, look, Haley Stevens is wrong on issue after issue. She votes with Nancy Pelosi 100% of the time after she ran as a moderate. She's anything but a moderate. And then to make matters worse, she votes to impeach President Trump. And the reason she told us was because she didn't like his tweets. That's not what the people of Michigan want to see.
Mm-hmm. And that specifically, if you go back, I mean, that was like in January. And doesn't that seem like an eternity ago? But if you go back to the reasons that the Democrats wanted to impeach him, it was, as you said, because of tweets, or they didn't like things he was saying, or they didn't like his demeanor. But when it came down to it, the whole basis of impeachment was faulty and basically didn't exist. So if the Republicans, and I just talked to Matt Boyle, who's the political editor of Breitbart News, and we sort of walk through the districts that are at play and where the NRCC thinks that they can win. The NRCC is active in 50 districts across the country. They need to win about 20 in order to win the majority. And, of course, yours is one of those. What do you think the agenda would be if the Republicans are able to take back the majority?
Well, first of all, I'll say, the Democrats want to criticize President Trump on his personality. If we're going to talk about personality, we should be talking about Haley Stevens' personality. This is the Congresswoman that went on the House floor with pink gloves, engaging in political theatrics, and getting her own mic turned off by her own party. This is the same Congresswoman that goes to a gun range and starts screaming and admonishing voters yelling and saying the NRA has to go. So the reality of it is that we can talk about personality, though I'd rather talk about policy. But if we're going to talk about personality, I think that those on the left have a lot to answer for. And I plan on holding them accountable in this race.
Well, and that's a good point. Let's play that clip right now of Representative Stevens on the House floor and the way she was behaving that caused her microphone to be turned off.
I request 30 more seconds because I rise before you adorning these
gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Not for personal tension, but to encourage you to take this
Mr.
Stevens,
I'm going to give you more time.
Right now, to the families.
The gentlelady will suspend. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized. The gentlelady is out of order.
I yield the gentlelady 30 additional seconds.
The gentlewoman is recognized for an additional 30 seconds.
Cause of their servitude, sharing in the profession with those who have not come before you. Similar times of trying medical need, wars and flus pass. You will see darkness. You will be pushed, and our society needs you to stand together at this time. Our country loves you. To our doctors and our nurses, I wear these latex
The gentlelady's
gloves
time has expired. The gentleman from Maryland is reserved. The gentleman from Texas is recognized.
Speaker Pelosi, I think, is playing a huge role in trying to undermine and subvert what President Trump is doing. And in fact, she went to Chinatown in San Francisco in February and said, there's no problem here. People need to come to Chinatown and they need to, eat the food and spend their money. And there's no problem. And any alarmism around the coronavirus is because you're racist, and it's rooted in racism. And yet now she is coming out and she's calling it the Trump virus. So as this all plays out, how do you see what role would you like to play in the Congress when it comes to these issues, and what would your big focus be?
Well, look, that just demonstrates the hypocrisy on the left. It demonstrates that they don't want to have a discussion on policy because they're bankrupt on ideas. They want to appeal to emotion. They want to make things up, and they want to attack President Trump, which is just wrong. When people ask me, how will I deal with those attacks, because they're most certainly coming, I say, when did the Conservative Party lose its backbone? If they're going to attack us, we need to stand up and we need to attack back. We need to point out the flaws in their failed policies. Every policy that Haley Stevens and the left supports calls for bigger government, higher taxes, and that translates into fewer liberties for folks like you and me. It's time to stand up. It's time to start making the arguments based on common sense and logic, something that the left completely lacks.
One of the things that I think the mainstream media completely missed in 2016 was the enthusiasm gap between the Republicans, Trump, and Hillary Clinton and her supporters. And I saw this, well, and that's exactly what I want to ask you, because you're in the Oakland County, Wayne County, Southeast Michigan, where that's a crucial portion of the state in terms of swing voters. So talk a little bit about what you're seeing in your community when you're out talking to people. Is there an enthusiasm gap between Trump supporters and Biden supporters?
I think there definitely is. I think that everybody, even Biden supporters, understand that he's just going to be a puppet for the far left who is controlling the Democratic Party these days. On the other hand, I think people see President Trump, they look at his policies, and they know that they work. We have the lowest unemployment rating before COVID came. We saw record minority employment. These are good things. This is what we need to be focusing on as a country. And that's not where the left is at, unfortunately.
So Eric Esshaki will be on the ballot in the 11th Congressional District in Michigan when we head to the polls on Tuesday, August 4th. Eric, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. It was great to talk with you.